Military strength is a crucial indicator of a country's comprehensive national power and a fundamental reliance for ensuring its security. China has historically been a nation that prioritizes military development, and the establishment of the People's Republic of China owes much to the arduous struggles of the People's Liberation Army. Since the beginning of the new century, China has undertaken extensive military reforms, vigorously advancing military technology and enhancing military education. This has allowed the nation to gradually overcome the previous challenges of outdated equipment, poor technological conditions, and lower cultural levels among officers and soldiers, transforming into a modern army capable of conducting information warfare. Today, China boasts an armed force of over 2 million personnel, including over 800,000 in the Army, more than 250,000 in the Air Force, and over 400,000 in the Navy, making it the world's largest armed force. China also possesses over 5,200 fighter jets, more than 350 warships, and over 7,000 tanks, positioning it among the world leaders in terms of technological equipment. Furthermore, China not only has a large and well-equipped military but also maintains a high level of modernization, with no significant technological gap compared to Western countries. While the U.S. military has fourth-generation aircraft like the F-16 and F-15, China has its equivalents with the J-10 and J-16. The U.S. has cruisers like the Ticonderoga class and destroyers like the Arleigh Burke class, and China has its counterparts with the Type 052C, Type 052D, and Type 055 destroyers, among many others. Numerous overseas think tanks acknowledge that China's military strength is second only to the United States, making it the world's second most powerful. However, some individuals question China's defense policy, arguing that if China truly loves peace, it shouldn't aggressively expand its military, potentially posing a threat to other nations. So, does China's substantial investment in building its national defense contradict its pursuit of peace? The answer is clearly no. In this video, we'll explore the topic of, if China loves peace, why invest heavily in military development? And discuss the following. 1. The right to national defense construction in China. 2. China's security needs. 3. Whether peace and national defense construction are contradictory. One, national defense construction is China's inherent right. China is a sovereign nation, and establishing an army, developing national defense, is a legitimate right enjoyed by every country. After all, each country has its security needs, and every sovereign nation aims to protect its independence and territorial integrity as much as possible. This can involve suppressing internal rebellions, separatist activities, and crime, as well as defending against external aggression or participating in activities aligned with national interests. The vast majority of countries worldwide have armed forces and engage in military construction, including military-industrial technology and military education. Western military powers like the United States, the United Kingdom, and France annually allocate significant funds for purchasing weapons and supporting their armed forces. For instance, the U.S. military budget exceeds $850 billion, ranking first globally. Even Japan, which legally only has a self-defense force and not a military, focuses heavily on developing national defense. It possesses a robust maritime and air force, with a military budget reaching $51 billion. Switzerland, a permanently neutral country, has a defense force of 120,000 and over 1 million reservists, equipped with numerous Leopard 2 main battle tanks and F-35 fighter jets. These facts underscore that developing military capabilities is a shared requirement among nations. As a vast sovereign nation, it is only natural for China to advance its national defense. China's increased military spending, enhanced defense industry, and acquisition of advanced weaponry are also aimed at safeguarding its territorial integrity. Other nations should not criticize China for developing its national defense. 2. China also has security needs. The fundamental reason for China's development of national defense lies in its strong security needs. As widely known, China is a vast country with a territory of 9.6 million square kilometers and a population of 1.4 billion. In terms of external challenges, China's extensive land borders necessitate the deployment of military forces for defense. Therefore, China needs a massive land-based defense force and coastal defense units to guard its lengthy land borders, with substantial mobile field forces stationed strategically to address unforeseen circumstances. Securing China's expansive airspace requires a robust air force to prevent other countries from breaching Chinese airspace and to maintain airspace security. At sea, China's substantial imports of raw materials and exports of goods rely on international maritime shipping to coastal ports and global sea lanes. For the sake of safeguarding its maritime interests and economic well-being, China needs a powerful navy to provide security. Moreover, China's territorial security faces provocations from the United States and some neighboring countries, not completely devoid of the risk of conflict. In the East China Sea, China has territorial disputes with Japan in the waters around the Diaoyu Islands. Faced with the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force possessing 2 light aircraft carriers, 2 amphibious assault ships, and an aviation force with over 400 combat aircraft, China must maintain a robust maritime and air force to counteract potential threats. Otherwise, China would be unable to uphold territorial integrity in the East China Sea. In the Taiwan Strait, without a formidable military force on the Chinese mainland, not only in the present but historically, the attempts by the Chiang Kai-shek regime to invade the mainland might have already succeeded. Today, with the United States consistently implementing its pivot to Asia strategy after the 2010s, concentrating the majority of its military resources in the Asia-Pacific region to contain the Chinese mainland, coupled with the Taiwan authorities pursuing a pro-US, anti-mainland policy since President Tsai Ing-wen took office in 2016, drawing closer to the United States, the U.S. attempts to arm Taiwan have become increasingly apparent. If China does not significantly develop its military strength and establish absolute military superiority along the Taiwan Strait, the United States and the Taiwan authorities may collude in more audacious activities. It is precisely because China now possesses robust military capabilities that separatist forces in Taiwan are not overly bold, harboring a certain fear toward the mainland and refraining from openly declaring independence. The United States, too, refrains from openly turning the Taiwan authorities into an ally, akin to the Philippines or Japan, thanks to China's possession of nuclear weapons and formidable conventional military strength. This prevents the United States from taking an excessively provocative stance in dealing with China on Taiwan-related issues. In the South China Sea, China faces territorial disputes with several neighboring countries, including the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. In the past, when China's military capabilities were weaker, these countries often seized Chinese reefs, disrupted, and detained Chinese fishermen operating in the South China Sea. As China's naval and air forces have developed, the maritime security of China has been effectively safeguarded. Without a powerful military, the situation in the South China Sea would be even more chaotic than it is now. Similarly, on China's land borders, security needs are equally pressing, especially along the China-India border in the southwest. China requires a robust army and air force to protect its borders, preventing any encroachment from India. After all, the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, known as the roof of the world, holds significant strategic value, and the territory north of the Himalayas has been a part of China since ancient times. China cannot simply ignore any northern movements by India. Such a crucial region cannot be handed over to India. India itself possesses formidable military strength, including a mountain strike corps, with over 200,000 personnel and nuclear capabilities. For China to counterbalance India, it must have substantial military power. Furthermore, addressing armed conflicts in northern Myanmar and dealing with the situation on the Korean Peninsula, China heavily relies on its military to ensure territorial security and control border situations. Similar to China, the United States, the United Kingdom, and France also have security needs. They too need to defend their territories or maintain their national interests overseas. Therefore, Western nations should not excessively criticize China for developing its military capabilities. 3. Peace and defense development are not contradictory. Finally, it is essential to emphasize that China's robust development of national defense does not impact its foreign policy and certainly does not divert from its strategic policy of peaceful rise. China pursued a non-aligned policy during the Cold War, refraining from engaging in an arms race and avoiding global hegemony. To date, China has not entered into any military alliance agreements with other countries. Since its founding in 1949, China has not initiated aggression against other nations. The Chinese government has repeatedly emphasized that China will not be the first to use force or engage in aggressive activities. Although China has territorial disputes and conflicts of interest with many countries, it advocates resolving issues through peaceful means. This approach has successfully averted the risk of war multiple times. Regarding countries and regions involved in wars, China adheres to a policy of not getting involved, placing peace as a priority and considering the United Nations Charter as an important reference, earning praise from many nations. It can be said that China is a nation that strongly values peace. Moreover, in the 1980s, 1990s, and in recent years, China has actively promoted disarmament, demonstrating a commitment to peace. The Chinese government recognized early on that peace and development are the trends of the world today. Countries mired in prolonged wars not only expend significant human and financial resources but also become entangled in quagmires, hindering economic development and failing to bring about prosperity or improve the standard of living for their citizens. This clearly contradicts China's governing philosophy. Furthermore, although China is a nuclear-armed nation, it declared in 1964, after its first successful nuclear test, a commitment not to use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear states and not to be the first to use nuclear weapons. These actions indicate that China genuinely intends to pursue peaceful development and is not a nation eager for perpetual warfare. This starkly contrasts with the United States, which pursues global hegemony, frequently interferes in the internal affairs of other nations, and initiates numerous overseas wars after the Cold War. In summary, China's development of national defense is aimed at protecting territorial security and upholding its own interests, not antagonizing other countries. China has the necessity and the right to develop its defense capabilities. The Western narrative of a China threat fundamentally aims to restrain China's military development and does not align with the actual situation. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We genuinely appreciate your support.